Good evening, everyone. My name is DJ Mercer. I am the Descendant Coordinator for Justice for Greenwood, and I will be moderating our town hall today. And today's town hall is all about the critical and historic judgment that will happen, hopefully, on Thursday, September 23rd. And we are saying, don't dismiss us, Tulsa. Give us the chance to move forward and talk about why we deserve a chance to fight for reparations. Next slide, please. There's a couple ways you can take action as a supporter of Greenwood, of Justice for Greenwood, just a supporter of Greenwood in general. The first thing you can do is sign our letter supporting survivors and descendants. As you can see, we got Uncle Red, Mother Fletcher, and Mother Randall front and center, and this is why we are fighting. Go to justiceforgreenwood.org/action and sign our letter of support and support survivors and join the over 200 people who have already signed the letter of support. That is amazing. That is incredible. But that's not the only way you can get involved. If you are Tulsa-based, this next one is for you as well. Attend our prayer rally for justice. It will be held at the Greenwood Cultural Center on Monday, September 27th at 6:30 p.m. If you're in Tulsa or plan to be in Tulsa on Monday, come to our prayer rally for justice and make sure that your prayers and thoughts, it'll be an amazing event. The ancestors will be there in spirit. We will have an amazing energy, and we want to make sure that the people and prayer are all up on our side so we can move forward. Next slide, please. So this is basically how you can also get involved as well. Donate to help the cause. As I said, sign our letter of support for survivors and descendants, as well as attend the prayer rally for justice on Monday night at the Greenwood Cultural Center. It's going to be an amazing event. I highly recommend that you come to that event, as well as anything related to Justice for Greenwood. Next slide, please. Our mission, through innovative legal strategies, public education, and advocacy, we seek justice and reparations for victims, survivors, and descendants of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. This is what we're doing. This is why we do it. And if you are a descendant, hashtag right now, hashtag I am a descendant, and let us know where you're from. Because this is not a Tulsa issue. This is a nationwide issue, even an international issue. Please let us know that you are a descendant and you are here and your voice needs to be heard. If you haven't gotten contact with us, call our descendant hotline on that number right there, 918-209-3771, so that you can get in contact with us. And if you haven't heard from us, you can email me, fill out the form on our website, justiceforgreenwood.org, or email me at dmercer@justiceforgreenwood.org. But the best way, call that descendant hotline, 918-209-3771. But moving forward, this is why we do it. We do this for descendants, and I want to bring in, without further ado, the founder of Justice for Greenwood, the managing partner of Solomon-Simmons Law, my spiritual big brother and mentor, and all-around good guy, attorney Damario Solomon-Simmons.
What's up, DJ? You're doing a great job, man. I appreciate everything you're doing for Justice for Greenwood and for our descendants and for our community at all. Hey, if you guys who are listening are excited about the work we're doing Justice for Greenwood, just hashtag right now, hashtag Justice for Greenwood. If you believe that 100 years of continuing harm that started, 100 plus years of continuing harm that started in 1921 needs to be rectified, put hashtag Justice for Greenwood. If you believe that on Tuesday, September 28th, that we should have an opportunity to move the three remaining survivors, 107-year-old Viola Ford Fletcher, 106-year-old Leslie Benefield Randall, and my man, 100 grand, 100-year-old Uncle Red, Hughes Van Ellis, if they should have an opportunity to have their day in court, if you believe that is necessary and that's right and just hashtag justice for Greenwood in the chat. So really excited to be here. Obviously, we're talking about our work is centered about getting justice for the largest act of domestic terrorism in the United States history. Well, we know at least 300 Black Tulsans were murdered. We know over $200 million in property damage, destroyed and stolen. Over 40 city blocks burned to the ground. People, innocent people, Black Wall Street, who had built up out of nothing, basically, and built a thriving community of over 12,000 people, destroyed over in 24 hours, and 100 years of continuing harm. That's why Tuesday is so important. If I go to the next slide, DJ talked about the prayer rally for justice. I'm really excited about this because, number one, none of us would be here without the prayers, I would say, of a praying mother, a praying grandmother. Number two, I'm excited because this prayer rally, we will have people from all around the community. We will be all the COVID protocols. You got to wear your mask. We're going to be checking temperatures, all that good stuff. But we're going to pray for success, pray for favor, pray for justice. And we're also going to honor those churches, those 11 churches that are still with us, that suffered through the massacre, who sustained property damage, who lost members, who were exiled or killed. Those 11 churches that are still around, we're going to recognize them. We're going to acknowledge them. And Justice for Greenwood is going to donate a grant to all 11 of those churches because we believe, just like our 3 living survivors, those 11 churches are survivors also. And we want to make sure that they're honored properly. And everyone understands that it was those churches that helped us as a community get through 1921 and the 100 years of continuing harm. And as we move into our legal update to talk more about the court date on Tuesday, for 100 years, actually more than 100 years, we have been waiting for this opportunity. We have been waiting for the opportunity to go into court and be able to move this case forward. And that is what Tuesday, September 28th at 10:30 will be. 10 o'clock, I'm sorry. It will be that first opportunity. Imagine this. Imagine Mother Fletcher, who's lived through 2 world wars, 2 world pandemics, the Cold War, being a sharecropper, being a maid making $1 an hour, segregation, Jim Crow. She's seen everything. The only thing she hasn't seen is justice for what happened to her during the Tulsa Race Massacre. And that's what we're trying to make happen. And so to talk about exactly what's happening on Tuesday the 28th, I'm going to bring up 2 of my very good friends, 2 of the best lawyers in the world who are on our legal team based out of New York. I'm talking about my man, Randall Adams, and my good friend, Sarah Salfinelli, who are at the great law firm, Schulte Roth Zabel. How you guys doing tonight?
We're good.
Good. Thanks for having us, Damario.
Oh, thank you so much. You know, we are so just proud and thankful that you guys have just jumped in with us and working with us and providing all the resources and support from your firm. It's an international firm. And we could not be at this point if it was not for Schulte Roth Zabel, you two, and the rest of your team. I think you have about 20 lawyers working with us now, something like that.
We've got about 20 actively working on the matter at the moment. We've certainly had more than 30, I think, do something or other along the way, and even more who have done work with Justice for Greenwood, who we also represent pro bono. So our firm is right here with you in every step of the way, fully invested, and we're honored. We're honored to be able to do this work.
Well, man, we couldn't do it without you because we're up against so much. 100 years of continuing harm and oppression and systematic white supremacy. It's hard. We couldn't be here if it wasn't for you all and our other national partners. So, hey, well, I'm gonna start with you, Randall. You know, you kind of are our main guy on this. Tell our people and those listening in our community what is happening on the 28th specifically. What are the defendants trying to do in this particular hearing?
Yeah, so Tuesday is a really critical day for our case. So what's happening on Tuesday is that there's going to be a hearing on the defendant's motion to dismiss. As people know, we've sued the city, the county, the state, the Chamber of Commerce, the Planning Commission, and the Tulsa Development Authority. And all of those parties have moved to dismiss the complaint. And so, you know, we've had this case, but we don't have a trial date. There hasn't been evidence taken. There haven't been experts offering their expert opinions. we haven't gotten to that part of the case yet. But what the defendants are saying right now is they're asking the judge to say, you don't even get there. You don't get a trial date. You don't get an opportunity to prove your claims. We're not going to have a hearing. I'm not going to hear from these experts. I'm not going to take depositions. I'm not going to do document discovery. We're going to stop the case right here. We're going to dismiss the case. That's what the defendants are asking the court to do. So we're opposing those motions, and we're arguing to our judge, and we're saying, look, we can prove this case. You give us a chance, you give us a hearing date, we can go into your courtroom with the experts, with the testimony of the survivors and the descendants, and we'll prove to you why this is a continuing public nuisance that needs to be abated under the law of Oklahoma. And we have a really, really good legal case. And that's in part because the state is in front of the Oklahoma Supreme Court right now, arguing that the state's statewide, decades-long opioid crisis is a public nuisance. And so they're taking all of these positions in front of the Oklahoma Supreme Court that's in contradiction to the arguments that they're making right now in front of our judge about what a public nuisance is. And our position is, look, if a statewide opioid addiction crisis is a public nuisance, then so is what happened in Tulsa, what has been happening for the last 100 years. In fact, it's much more local. It's much more closer to the idea of nuisance than what the state has already proved in their trial. And at the very least, we should get the same chance to prove our case that the state got and won and is now in front of the Supreme Court defending. So if the judge grants the motions to dismiss, then the case in front of that judge is technically over. We would then appeal that, of course. But if the court denies the motions to dismiss, which the court should do, then we get the opportunity. We get to take discovery, we get to depose people, we get to find experts, we get to put on a case to prove our claims. And that's all we're asking for from the court on Tuesday, and we should get it.
Man, Randall, I sure appreciate you. So clear there. I just want to make sure that people understand what you said about the public nuisance lawsuit at the state of Oklahoma. How many years were they able to go back to prove this nuisance occurred? I mean, was that decades that they were able to go back?
Oh yeah, it went back to the 70s.
So basically our case saying, hey, if they could go back to the 70s on an opioid issue, and we certainly should be able to go back and something that's actually continuing to this day and go back to 1921. And there are other cases where people have gone back 60, 70, 80 years on a public nuisance, correct?
Absolutely, yes. And again, the state's case is about an opioid addiction, which is statewide, going back to the 70s. Our case is about Tulsa and what has happened in Tulsa. It's much more narrow than the state's case, really.
So at this hearing that we're having on Tuesday, the judge is not deciding if we win the whole case. We're just trying to get an opportunity that has never happened before in Tulsa to be able to prove our case in court.
Absolutely. The judge is only deciding if we get a chance. That's it.
So we would get an opportunity for Mother Fletcher, Mother Randall, and Uncle Red to have that opportunity that has evaded them for 100 plus years.
Absolutely.
Well, Sarah, tell us why this is so important, why this matters so much, not only to people here in Tulsa and our survivors and descendants, but just nationwide.
Yeah, and I think just to reiterate what everyone's been saying, we can get into the details as you talk about the public nuisance and our claims. But I think what's so easily understood is everything Randall just said and what you've mentioned. We're talking about just dismissing us and take the legal meaning of that word out of this, and it's still the same. The survivors and descendants have been dismissed for 100 years. The fact that the massacre even occurred has been completely dismissed and silenced and denied. And here we are. I think it's quite fitting that the actual, legal term we're using is dismissing the case, and that's what's been happening. So we are going and saying, don't keep dismissing us. Don't dismiss us yet again. Give us a chance to be heard, because outside of the legal system, people are finally being heard. What you're doing here, Damario, Justice for Greenwood and DJ, and all the descendants are using your voices in a way that we haven't seen for 100 years, and it's extraordinary. And I think that's what takes us to the importance of what we're looking at right now with this hearing on the 28th. Let us finally hear us. Let us be heard. Outside the courtroom, people are speaking up everywhere. People are speaking up. And we saw at the Centennial how much attention, people were listening and paying attention. But what now? It's been months. And I don't know the last time you've seen those national news crews in Tulsa since then, but we need them to come back. And this is our opportunity. This lawsuit moves forward. We're going to get a lot of attention again because it is historic. As you and Randall have said, that this has never moved forward to actually beyond a motion to dismiss. We've been dismissed time and time again in every sense of the word. And if we move forward, if the judge allows us to move forward with this lawsuit, it will get a lot of national attention and I think even international attention, because too many times in this country, in this world, has there been such horrific terrorism like the 1921 race massacre. And never has there been justice in the right way. And always is the excuse, it was too long ago. There's nothing we can do now. Our hands are tied. Sorry. That's what the law says. We can't even hear the evidence behind it. We are finally in a position with some real strong legal arguments that say it doesn't matter when it happened, that harm is still happening, the public nuisance is still happening. So this is the first time we're able to make this argument, which is don't dismiss us, you have to listen. And as we know, the evidence we have is so strong and so clear. And unfortunately, in far too many other circumstances where similar events took place, that evidence isn't there. And it's not quite, as I would say, accessible for people to understand this is the harm. There was a hospital, there isn't anymore, there hasn't been for 100 years. There was thriving, prosperous businesses and entrepreneurs. They disappeared. They've been struggling and trying to get back to that for 100 years. I think everybody across the country, no matter where you're from and what your background is, can really wrap their heads around that. And if we can't be successful with this strong case that we have, I think it's going to be really disappointing, really frustrating and demoralizing for a lot of folks out there who are paying close attention. So it's why it's so important to show we can get past this stage of dismissal. We can have our day in court. We can get our voices heard. That said, I want to be really clear to point out what Randall did talk about. It's not over. If we find ourselves in the very wrongly decided hearing that we are dismissed, which we shouldn't be, but if that happens, it's not over. We're not packing our bags and saying, I guess that's it. We will appeal, and we will have, we believe, strong arguments on appeal and still have that opportunity to move forward. So I say that because I want to emphasize the importance of everybody staying engaged and really paying attention. And as I've said, using your voices, while you might not be in court using your voice, like Damario and Randall and our team will be, your voices are more powerful. They can be louder. They can be more impactful by doing everything you've been doing, by showing up at these rallies, by putting out online through social media, by talking to your friends, talking to your neighbors, getting the word out there, what we're doing. That all really does make a difference. Let's keep the spotlight on Tulsa. Let's keep the attention focused on this lawsuit, on the importance of it, and the impact it can have, not just on Tulsa, but across the country for so many people watching and thinking maybe we can find justice for our community for something similar that happened to us.
Thank you so much, Sarah. You know, as you know, I always say, if we can't win Tulsa when we have living survivors, we have, like you said, so much documentation, videos, we have insurance ledgers, we know where people lived, we can see the nuisance that are still available. I mean, just go I-244, that's right in the middle of the community. It's still right there. We know it was put there to dislodge and displace Greenwood and break up Greenwood, and it's still there. And so if we can't win here, where can we win? One thing, Randall, I wanted to see if you could just expound on a little bit more. You said we need to have discovery if we're able to win. And we all know we're lawyers. It's not us. The judge is going to make a decision. We know that. We just feel like our case is strong. The law is strong. Why is discovery so important, Randall, since it's never been had in this case, in this issue? There's never been discovery in this case. Can you just briefly tell us why that's so important for this issue overall?
Oh, yeah. So discovery means collecting evidence, and when you're in an active court case, you can demand that the other parties, and they're legally required to, give you their evidence. So we can ask the city, we can ask the county, we can ask the military department, give us all the documents you have about the massacre, everything that's been covered up, everything that's been sent to some archive, we get to see it. And that's huge because so much of that has been hidden. As we know, there's been a conspiracy of silence to pretend like the massacre never happened. And anything that still exists, we're going to get access to. And the other thing is we're going to take depositions. So we're going to depose people, what they heard about the massacre, what they know about the cover-up, what they know about the continuing nuisance in North Tulsa. Everything that's been done to oppress North Tulsa, we're going to ask people about in depositions. And so we're going to get access to stuff that hasn't been uncovered, wasn't uncovered by the state in its report, and we're going to really get to the bottom of the truth. Wow.
And that's what Justice for Greenwood is all about. One of our main tenets is to advocate, but also to educate people about what happened at the massacre and how we can move past it. So we need that information. Hey, well, I thank you so much. Both of you are so fantastic, and you're doing such good work. And I know how hard we're working on this hearing, so I'm going to let you go because I can talk to you forever. I thank you so much. We appreciate you. This community appreciates you. And I look forward to seeing you on Monday.
We'll see you next week. Thank you, Damario.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And next, I'm excited to bring DJ back on because we are going to hear directly from a couple of people while we're doing this work. We do this work for descendants, for survivors in the Greenwood community. And we have 3 descendants that DJ is going to talk about why Tuesday is so important. DJ, it's you. Take it away.
Thank you, Damario. As we pull up the descendants, please, wherever you're from, remember, hashtag I'm a descendant. As Sarah said, let your voices be heard. Your voices are just as powerful, if not more powerful, because these are your legacies. These are your family members who have either lived or unfortunately perished at the hands of in 1921, even to this day. So I'd like to take the time to thank Lauren Usher, who is a descendant of J.B. Stratford, LaShundra Houghton, who is a descendant of Jenny Jenkins, as well as James Hardman, who is a descendant of John Lacey. So I want to thank you all for coming today. So I just have a quick question before we get into more specific questions. And James, we got to be chivalrous, so we got to let the women go first. So LaShundra, how does it make you feel when people tell you to get over it when referring to the Tulsa Race Massacre?
There's a couple of things. I haven't had anybody tell me to get over it, but I am going to state this. You can't get over something that hasn't been revealed. It's not in our history books. It's not written. It's not talked about. I grew up with it, but even telling the stories about it, people thought it wasn't real. And they kept on telling me it didn't exist. So for someone to say that it doesn't, to get over it, I would like to understand if I was a Jew and the Holocaust. I've never heard anybody tell somebody that was a Jew to get over the Holocaust. So let's start there. It's in the history books. There's museums. There's information. There is other things that are given because of the fact of a horrific event in history that happened. We're just asking the same thing. I haven't had anybody ask me, but if they did, I would bring it back to what's already in existence, the Jews and the Holocaust.
Thank you. Lauren, what about you? How does it make you feel when people tell you to get over it? Because your family, as a descendant of J.B. Stratford, you could have been the Hiltons. So how does it make you feel when people tell you to get over it or you hear that?
I think that it's impossible, as LaShundra is saying, that we are still so far from even, I think, making a drop in the bucket in terms of what is really owed to us, the justice that has yet to have been met. And so there is no getting over it. There is no the acting like this is to the past. I think that what people need to understand is that we're here because 100 years of we haven't given up for 100 years. We haven't forgotten about it. We haven't forgotten what our ancestors worked hard for, and we are going to continue that fight. And so they better get over, just thinking that this is going to go down with no kind of justice for us. That's something that the other side needs to get over, because I think if we've shown anything is that this community is not going to rest until we have the justice that is justice for Greenwood.
Absolutely. And last but not least, James, how do you feel when people tell you to get over it as a descendant?
First, let me ask you guys, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. My situation is, I hate to say I get upset, but to be honest with you, I kind of take it personal. Because as the young lady just said, you talk about we should get over certain things, but then when you refer back to other issues like the Oklahoma City bombing, you refer to the World Trade Center, 9/11, and you see hashtag never forget. It's kind of hard to see people come up from slavery, get mistreated, but then they still excel. And then they're still their descendants, when those people are thoroughly abused, they're told to get over it. I take offense to that.
Thank you. So now we're going to get into more specific questions. So Lashandra, I know you have a connection to the military. So the Oklahoma Military Department states that they are not liable because of martial law was ordered. Did your family members, did they feel protected or persecuted when martial law was declared?
As a military spouse, my husband retired from the military, but also my uncles who were right there in Tulsa, my great uncles that were right there in Tulsa, served in the military. Martial law is there and put in place to protect the people, come in to help the citizens, to protect the properties, protect what's going on and what's right. When you are a group of people that are treated less than, and you have the martial law, there was no protection. At that time in 1920s, we were not treated the same. So how can you state that you are not liable when you weren't protecting all people? Because of the color of my skin, I could have been shot. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to look any way. I didn't have to commit a crime, but just from the color of my skin, I could have been shot. To me, the military, they are accountable, but also that the military is also always hold themselves accountable for what they always right their wrongs. This is just another story that they need to right their wrongs. This is not a story of forgetting. This is the fact that the military was wrong. We were wrong for shooting the people just for the color of their skin. We were wrong for allowing another group of people to destroy properties and to loot their homes and to kick them out and to put the men who are there to protect the men or to protect the families and put them in a way that they could not even protect their own. Martial law didn't apply to the Black community during this time period. And they need to do what they always do, right their wrongs, just like Japan, just like other countries, Iran, Iraq. So there's other countries that we do this for, and we need to just do it for Tulsa.
So thank you for that. Speaking of righting wrongs, James, my next question is for you. In 2019, Mike Neal, the president of the Tulsa Regional Chamber, apologized for the chamber's civic and moral obligation to ensure the welfare of Tulsans, and they didn't do that. So how does it make you feel that the organization apologized but is actively working to dismiss the case? Do you think they are truly sorry if they are trying not to right the wrongs they committed?
Actually, I think it's typical behavior. I feel that if you're going to apologize, what are you apologizing for? You wouldn't apologize for anything. If you spilled a open bottle of milk or a cup of milk and you said you were sorry, you did something. You had something to do with the action that took place. And if you didn't personally, then there's somebody that, you know, possibly did have something to do with it. Highly unlikely that anybody apologizes for anything that they didn't feel was a wrong.
Thank you. And now, Lauren, my last question is for you. The City of Tulsa states the plaintiff's claims date back to 1921 without plaintiffs acting to file. Can you, as a descendant, explain why some people may not have wanted to file a lawsuit in 1920, 1921, etc.?
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why people were unable or unwilling to file all of the necessary claims and paperwork to be able to show that, you know, kind of paper trail there. And I know for one, my descendant was one of the few that was actually indicted for starting the riot, which, you know, is a complete falsehood. We did not start the riot that ended up, you know, killing and looting and destroying our neighborhoods. And it drove, you know, my ancestor, J.B. Stratford, out of Tulsa. So there was even no way that he could come back to be able to handle those kind of things in terms of the property, because then his life and his freedom would have been at stake by returning. And I think it's obvious that these entities, they know that, they understand that the crime in and of itself, they're using aspects of the crime to try to deflect having justice being done. And that's just completely just unacceptable. You know, you can't say, oh, because I stole the evidence, that you can't use it against me. No, that's just more indication of the fact that it is a crime and that it needs to be addressed. So we're trying, and I know you all are trying to fight hard against these just really ridiculous things that are coming out of this.
So I just want to say thank you to each of you for, one, being amazing individuals, being incredible descendants. I know your ancestors are looking down on you and are very proud of their lineage. So I just want to thank you so much for being strong, being willing, and being vulnerable today, because I know it's not easy to relive past trauma. So I just want to thank you today for joining us. Any last remarks you would like to say before we move to the next session?
I will just jump in and say, I want to thank y'all for the work that you all are doing. Obviously, there continues to be, you know, personally, as we have been talking about, and, you know, for this whole group of descendants, just continuous affronts to the legitimacy of our claim, of just even our identity as, you know, as who we are, as our family, as descendants. And like I said, like, it's not something that I know I and my family is going to give up on. I know that y'all, you know, the Justice for Greenwood team is not giving up. So just everyone who's watching, just know, like, this is not stopping. Like, we'll not allow these affronts on us to be just continued, and we won't let our identity and justice be dismissed. So that's what I got to say on that.
Thank you, Lauren.
And Lauren, hey, this is LaShondra. I just want to say that there has been ongoing of generational poverty because of what has happened in Greenwood. And it's time to stop. It's time to be responsible. It's time to own up. I am so thankful and grateful for you and your team out there and continuing to fight to get this generational poverty stopped. And time for the families that are here represented to start to heal. And I love the fact that you guys are bringing not just, you know, the world together, but our families together to now fight for a common cause, which is justice for Greenwood. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd just like to say, one, thank you guys for inviting myself and my family to be a part of this, but also thank you for showing the courage to step up and challenge what has been done in order to right the wrong. Thank you.
You're welcome. And it's because of descendants like you all, families like you all, that we are able to push forward, because there are dark days. There are days where we feel like, what is this for? But then we are constantly reminded that when we see our descendant list growing, when we hear stories from you all saying thank you, that we will push forward. And no matter what, we will continue to push forward. We will continue to fight, because the ancestors are with us, your ancestors are with us, and their descendants are with us as well. So thank you all for coming today. Thank you all for being vulnerable, and we will continue the fight no matter what. So we're going to move on to the next section. We're going to bring up a couple people, Jerica Handy, who is our social media expert, whiz, all around great person, as well as Damario Solomon-Simmons, the founder of Justice for Greenwood.
Hey, we got Marley too.
Oh, Marley's joining the crib. Yeah, love it. Marley's joining. Love Marley.
Hey, man, DJ, that was a really powerful session. I mean, I can just listen to the descendants talk and just, like you said, they give us so much inspiration when they say, look, we're not going to give this up. We're going to continue to fight. We're going to continue to push forward. And that's what we do this for. So, and I know you talk to them all the time. So appreciate that. And I definitely appreciate seeing you, Jerica, and the work that you all are doing, you and Chad and Sade on the social media. So it's good stuff. I'm really excited about Tuesday.
Thanks.
So what we got going? We only have about 4 minutes left, so let's see how we can get through.
Let's jump into this Q&A, and thank you all so much for your work. It's truly a privilege to be on this team. So we got our first question here. It's 2 parts, and it is, what has the impact of the massacre been on the economy of Black Americans in the area? Was anyone ever held accountable?
Well, no, the second question is easy. No one has been held accountable. No one's been held liable. No one was arrested. No one's even investigated. I mean, and to this day, there's a very famous picture that we should put up on our social media of this white guy with 2 guns. He has a big cigar in his mouth, and you have the burning of Greenwood right behind him. And who is that guy, right? We should know who that guy is, right? So no one was held accountable. The impact on Black Americans or Black people in Tulsa has been disastrous. Right now, we live 35% in poverty. We make $25,000 to $30,000 less on average than the white family. We own our homes. They own their homes 2 times more often than we do. We die 11 to 14 years faster than they do. We get beat by the police 3 to 5 times more. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And it's a direct result of the massacre. It's a continuation of what happened in 1921 to what's happening here in 2021. And that's why the work that we're doing, uncovering the information, bringing families together. I'm so glad that Chandra said that. We are bringing families together who were split apart 100 years ago. Our work is bringing them together. And our legal work that we're working with the lawyers that represent our organization and others are trying to get finally some type of justice in the legal system. So that's where we are. And that's why Tuesday, September 28th is such an important date. And if you want to help us, go to justiceforgreenwood.org /action, join up with us.
Real
And you
quick,
can buy
Damario,
all those links in the
let me say
comments.
something. So if you want to see the stark differences between North Tulsa and South Tulsa, just drive down Peoria. Start on 46th Street north by Peoria, or even as far as McLean, and just drive all the way south. It will feel completely different the more further south you go.
Glaring differences between North and South Tulsa. And like said, Damario, I mean, direct result of the massacre and, years of inaction as well. Thank you both for those comments. Next question is, what is the best path for reparations? What would reparations look like?
What is the best path? I mean, the best path would be that those perpetrators, the city, the county, the Chamber of Commerce, the state of Oklahoma, will say, you know what? We know we did wrong. We know we destroyed generational wealth. We created generational poverty. And we know what it takes to fix it because we've already studied the issue. We already put plans out. We're going to give what we call a Greenwood plan. Just like when they bombed out Europe during World War II and they created the Marshall Plan, they built up a whole society, rebuild Greenwood. One of the things that we hear sometimes is, oh, when Greenwood burnt down, but it built back better. Well, not really, because before the massacre, J.B. Stratford owned the largest black-owned hotel in America. No one else has owned the largest black-owned hotel in Tulsa since J.B. Stratford. Before the massacre, A.J. Smitherman had the #1 leading African-American newspaper in the nation. Since the massacre, the #1 leading black newspaper in America hasn't been in Tulsa. Before the massacre, Dr. A.C. Jackson was considered the very best black surgeon in the nation. We have some pretty fantastic doctors, black doctors in the Tulsa over the years, but I don't know if anybody's been considered the best in the entire nation. So, what would reparations look like? It would look like a holistic plan, a holistic programs to abate or fix these issues. It looks like scholarships. It looks like giving land back. It looks like tax abatement. Why should the people in North Tulsa, the people who suffered the massacre, who suffered the nuisance, have to continue to pay taxes to the same governmental entities that destroyed their family wealth? I mean, things like that. Reparations looks like a hospital in North Tulsa. We have no healthcare facilities in North Tulsa, hospitals in North Tulsa. So, and we have a Greenwood plan that is highlighted, going to be highlighted on our website. And if you look at our litigation, we spell out a plan, what we call for abatement, to fix this issue. It's right there, pages 67 to 73 of our amended petition. We'll put it on our website for you to check it out. And it's an abatement plan. It's called an abatement. That means to fix.
And DJ? Got anything?
I have no comments. That was a beautiful answer by Damario. I didn't know what the word abatement meant. So thank you, Damario.
Great. Okay, so last question. So this is someone who's wanting to take action, but they don't live in the area. What can I, as a non-resident, do or contribute to help?
DJ, you could tell them that.
Yeah, I definitely could. So first thing, follow us on social media. Like us on Facebook. Follow our Facebook or Instagram page, and share our posts. Damario goes live sometimes. Make sure you're watching those. Sign our petition, our letter of support. There's so many ways that you can get involved. Have conversations with those around you. Exactly. Those 3 things right there. You can donate to help the cause. Sign our letter of support to survivors and descendants. And just make sure that if there's anything Greenwood related, that your voice is being heard, making sure you're telling people about it, because the best advocates are not only us, but those who are working with us, who know the story, who can build up the story and make it bigger and bigger, because this is not a Tulsa issue. This is a nationwide issue. I even think I saw somebody said they're from Australia and they're checking in on us too. So it's not just Tulsa. This is not a Tulsa issue. This is international now. And just get involved, have conversations, tell this story, and bring people to the town hall.
Absolutely. Yes. And that collective power will be essential for our long-term success and getting the justice that is long deserved. And that's our last question.
All right. Well, man, that was good. Good job, DJ. Good job, Jerica. And I guess DJ, you're gonna take us on out. I just tell everyone, thank you for joining us tonight, and continue to pray for us, support us, and DJ, we'll let you finish it out for us. Peace. Marley says bye.
Bye, Marley. All right. Marley's so cute. Okay. So back to it. This is what you can do. If you haven't signed our letter of support, supporting the survivors and descendants of the Tulsa Race Massacre, as well as its continuing harm, visit www.justiceforgreenwood.org/action. There you will find several ways to get involved and take action. That's how you can help. Even if you're not in Tulsa, it's not an excuse. You can donate, sign our letter of support, and if you can attend a prayer rally for justice on Monday, be with us in spirit, pray for us. We'll take all the prayers we can have. We will take it, because this is an uphill battle. It's been 100 years and they're continually decimating Greenwood to this day. So we need all the help, all the rallying cries as possible. So if you can't be with us physically, at least be with us in spirit. So last, to adjourn everything, the last thing I would like to say is, don't dismiss us, Tulsa. Don't dismiss the descendants. Don't dismiss those individuals and those families who have been impacted the most by the horrendous, horrific, and horrible incident that happened over 100 years ago and continues to happen. Don't dismiss us, Tulsa. Have a good night.